Ancient builders created concrete that repairs its own cracks. This is just one of the lost technologies we will uncover. You will discover 25 ancient inventions that modern engineers are still struggling to replicate. How did a 2,000-year-old device predict solar eclipses with perfect accuracy? And why did a legendary steel recipe vanish forever? This journey reveals the stunning ingenuity of our ancestors and the fragile nature of progress itself. What forgotten marvel from the past do you believe could change our future the most? These ancient minds saw problems not as barriers, but as invitations to create. Without the digital tools we take for granted, they relied on observation, raw material, and profound ingenuity. Their world was one of stone and bronze, of manual labor and celestial cycles. Yet from this seemingly limited palette, they painted masterpieces of engineering. They built aqueducts that marched across valleys and temples aligned with the stars. Their knowledge was a precious resource, carefully inscribed on scrolls, etched into clay, or passed down through generations by word of mouth. But knowledge is fragile. Great libraries can burn, empires fall, languages are forgotten. A single natural disaster, a prolonged period of conflict, or simply the slow erosion of centuries can silence a tradition forever, leaving behind only silent stones and enigmatic artifacts. This is the great tragedy and the compelling mystery. We are left with the breathtaking results but have lost the instruction manual. By stepping into their world, understanding their constraints and their motivations, we begin to see these creations not as magical anomalies, but as the brilliant solutions of their time. This context transforms a curious object into a window into a lost world of thought. It connects their struggles with ours, their desire to build and explore with our own. So as we uncover each of these 25 lost technologies, remember that we are not just listing inventions. We are piecing together a fragmented legacy, one that challenges our assumptions about progress and reminds us that brilliance can be both achieved and forgotten, waiting patiently in the dust to be rediscovered. Our journey into these lost marvels begins not on land, but at the bottom of the sea. In the year 1900, sponge divers off the coast of a small Greek island named Antikythera stumbled upon a shipwreck. Among the statues and pottery, they recovered a corroded lump of bronze and wood that seemed unremarkable at first. It was only years later, when a researcher noticed a precisely cut gear wheel embedded in the rock like fossil, that the world realized its true significance. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a device so advanced it would take decades and cutting-edge X-ray technology to even begin to understand its purpose. It was, in essence, a 2,000-year-old analog computer. Think of a hand-cranked orrery of incredible complexity, a device that could model the cosmos. By turning a handle, an operator could watch pointers move across dials to show the positions of the sun, the moon, and the known planets. It predicted solar eclipses with stunning accuracy and even tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. This was not a simple calendar. It was a dynamic simulation of the heavens, a mechanical representation of astronomical knowledge. The most breathtaking aspect of its design was a component called a differential gear. This arrangement of gears allows two different rotational speeds to be combined to produce a third, an output that calculates a specific relationship. This exact same principle is used in the axles of modern automobiles. For centuries, historians of technology were certain such a device was invented no earlier than the 16th century. Yet here it was, sitting in a ship that sank around 70 BCE. Its very existence forces us to rewrite the history of engineering. How could such sophisticated knowledge simply vanish for over a millennium? The mechanism is a haunting reminder that progress is not a straight line. It is a fragile thread, easily broken by the collapse of empires, the loss of libraries, or the quiet passing of the last person who knew how to turn bronze and wisdom into a model of the universe. While the Antikythera Mechanism represents a pinnacle of intricate machinery, the Roman Empire achieved a different kind of wonder on a colossal scale. Their concrete was not just durable, it was seemingly alive. Modern concrete, the backbone of our cities, is designed to last for decades. Roman concrete was built for eternity. The Pantheon in Rome still boasts the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome, a structure that has weathered 2,000 years of elements without a single crack compromising its integrity. How is this possible when our own concrete structures often show significant wear after just 50 years? The Romans mixed their concrete with a special ingredient, a volcanic ash known as pozzolana. When this ash combined with lime and seawater, it triggered a remarkable chemical process. Instead of slowly eroding, the concrete actually grew stronger over centuries. Even more astonishing, when tiny cracks did form, exposure to seawater would cause new mineral crystals to grow, effectively healing the fissures from within. It was a self-repairing material. Modern scientists, using advanced tools like electron microscopes, have only recently decoded this process. They found that the seawater reacting with the pozzolana creates a rare crystalline mineral that blocks cracks and reinforces the entire matrix. Today, engineers are in a race to reverse engineer this ancient recipe. The potential is staggering. Imagine seawalls that fortify themselves against pounding waves, or bridges that require far less maintenance over their lifetimes. This is not merely a historical curiosity, it is a blueprint for a more resilient and sustainable future. The Romans, without knowing the precise chemistry, embedded a powerful principle of longevity into their landscape. Their concrete stands as a silent challenge to our own disposable building culture, asking us why we build for a generation when we could build for the ages. From the silent, self-healing stone of Rome, we turn to a weapon of living flame. The Byzantine Empire guarded a secret so potent it could decide the fate of navies. They called it Greek fire, a liquid horror that defied both water and understanding. Imagine a substance that, once ignited, could not be put out by the very sea it floated upon. Historical records describe it clinging to ships and men, creating an inextinguishable inferno that spread panic as quickly as the blaze itself. Byzantine warships were equipped with bronze tubes and pressurized siphons, allowing them to project this fiery stream onto enemy vessels with devastating effect. The psychological impact was as powerful as the physical destruction. To face a Byzantine dromon in battle was to face a dragon breathing a river of fire across the waves. The precise formula was a state secret of the highest order, known only to a select few, perhaps even only to the reigning emperor and a single family of chemists. This obsessive secrecy worked too well. When Constantinople finally fell, the knowledge vanished from the world as completely as if it had been consumed by its own flames. For centuries, modern scientists have tried to reverse engineer this legendary weapon. They have experimented with combinations of crude naphtha, quicklime, and various resins, creating flammable compounds that burn on water. Yet none have fully replicated the terrifying descriptions from ancient chronicles, which speak of a fire that almost seemed to chase its targets, and that water only intensified. The mystery endures not as a call to recreate a weapon of war, but as a fascinating puzzle in ancient chemistry. The study of Greek fire pushes the boundaries of material science, inspiring research into advanced combustible liquids for peaceful industrial uses. from controlled demolitions to specialized engines. Its story is a powerful lesson in the fragility of knowledge. A technology that once made an empire nearly invincible at sea was so tightly held that its own protectors became its final tomb, leaving behind only the echo of its fearsome reputation and a question that still burns. From the volatile seas of Greek fire, we arrive at the cold, sharp perfection of the forge. Damascus steel blades were more than just weapons. They were the pinnacle of a blacksmith's art, legendary for their impossible combination of strength and flexibility. A sword forged from this metal could reportedly slice through a silk scarf as it fell through the air, yet it would not shatter when striking a knight's helmet. Its surface was a work of art in itself, marked by a mesmerizing, watery pattern that looked like wood grain or flowing liquid frozen in metal. This was no mere decoration. It was the visual signature of an incredibly complex internal structure. The secret did not begin in Damascus, but in the crucibles of India. There, artisans created a unique form of high-carbon steel known as Wootz steel. These iron ingots were traded across the world, and it was the master smiths of the Middle East who unlocked their true potential through a meticulous and closely guarded forging process. They would heat, hammer, and fold the metal repeatedly, all while carefully controlling its cooling in a specific cycle. This intricate dance of heat and pressure caused the carbon within the steel to form into microscopic structures called carbon nanotubes, an ultra-strong material that modern science is only now learning to synthesize in labs. These nanotubes, woven throughout the blade like an invisible internal skeleton, are what gave Damascus steel its legendary properties. It was a form of nanotechnology achieved over 1,000 years ago. So what happened to this extraordinary knowledge? The decline was likely a slow death by 1,000 cuts. Changes in trade routes may have made the raw Wootz steel increasingly difficult to obtain. Perhaps the specific ore sources with their unique trace minerals were depleted. The guilds of smiths who held the secrets may have dwindled without passing on their most prized techniques. The knowledge was so specialized that when the economic and social conditions that supported it faded away, the technology itself evaporated. Today, we can analyze the ancient blades and see the carbon nanotubes, but we cannot perfectly recreate the process that made them. The quest is not just for a sharper sword. The principles behind Damascus steel could lead to revolutionary new materials, from more durable drill bits for deep earth exploration to lighter, stronger alloys for spacecraft. We are not just trying to copy an ancient recipe. We are trying to recover a lost philosophy of working with metal, one that blended art, science, and an almost intuitive understanding of material behavior. Far removed from the heat of the forge lies a discovery that challenges our entire understanding of ancient innovation. In the 1930s, a peculiar artifact was unearthed near Baghdad, a simple clay pot that held a secret more powerful than any sword. Inside, a copper cylinder housed an iron rod sealed with an asphalt plug. To the untrained eye, it was just an odd container, perhaps for holding scrolls. But when researchers filled a replica with a common acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, something remarkable happened. The device produced a small but measurable electric current. This was the Baghdad Battery, a primitive galvanic cell potentially 2,000 years old. The implications are staggering. It suggests that the Parthian people might have tamed a fundamental force of nature long before it was officially discovered. What could they have used this trickle of electricity for? The most compelling theory is electroplating, the process of depositing a thin layer of one metal onto another, like putting a gold finish on a silver object. This would explain the existence of fine ancient jewelry that shows no signs of solder, items that could have been finished with an electrochemical process. Other theories propose it was used for medicinal purposes, a mild shock for therapeutic reasons, or even within religious ceremonies to create a mysterious, tingling sensation from a statue. While the exact purpose remains one of history's great debates, the object itself is not. Modern engineers have confirmed that the design works, generating about 1 volt of electricity. It is a simple, elegant, and functional battery. This singular artifact forces us to reconsider a linear progression of science. It hints at a path not taken, a branch of technological inquiry that was perhaps abandoned, lost, or simply not pursued on a wider scale. Today, researchers study its principles for inspiration in low-power energy storage, imagining simple, sustainable power sources for remote sensors or educational tools. The Baghdad Battery is a quiet but profound revolution. It tells us that the spark of discovery can flicker into existence in any era, only to be forgotten, waiting in the dust for a future generation to recognize its light. From the quiet hum of a forgotten battery, we arrive at a structure built to be seen for miles, a giant of light and stone. The Lighthouse of Alexandria did not merely guide ships, it declared the power of human ambition against the vastness of the sea. Imagine a tower soaring over 100 meters into the sky, a white marble giant crowned with a perpetual flame. By day, a massive polished bronze mirror captured the sun, projecting a brilliant signal across the water. By night, a furnace fed by wood and resin sent a beacon of fire into the darkness, a star fixed firmly to the earth, visible from an impossible distance. This was not just a lighthouse, it was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a masterpiece of functional design. Its genius lay in a form that was both majestic and profoundly stable. The foundation was built upon a base of molten glass and lead, a clever shock-absorbing system that helped it settle firmly into the island of Pharos. The tower itself tapered in 3 distinct stages, a design that expertly dissipated the relentless force of the wind, allowing it to stand for well over 1,000 years. How did ancient builders lift the enormous stone blocks, some weighing many tons, to such a breathtaking height? They likely employed a system of counterweights and ramps, a monumental feat of logistics and early civil engineering that still informs how we think about moving massive materials today. Its eventual loss to a series of earthquakes is a solemn reminder of nature's power, but its legacy was never truly extinguished. Modern engineers study descriptions of its design to improve the stability of skyscrapers and the resilience of coastal structures. The very principles of creating a tall, slender building that can withstand environmental stress were pioneered on that Alexandrian shore. This ancient marvel challenges us to blend the practical with the sublime, to build not just for necessity, but for wonder, proving that the most enduring innovations are those that serve a vital purpose while lifting the human spirit. That same principle of building to endure is carved into the very mountains of Peru. High in the Andes, the Inca built walls that defy belief, assembling massive stones with a precision that seems to defy the tools of their era. Without mortar, without iron, they shaped granite boulders into intricate puzzles. Each block was painstakingly pounded and ground into shape using simple stone hammers and abrasive sand, a process of immense patience and skill. The result was a seamless joinery where the gaps between stones are so minute that not even the thinnest blade of a knife can slip through. This was not merely for aesthetic appeal, it was a stroke of pure engineering genius. The walls were built with a subtle, inward-sloping angle, and the stones themselves were often multi-sided and irregular, locking together like 3-dimensional jigsaw pieces. This design created a structure that was dynamic, not rigid. When the ground shakes during an earthquake, A modern brick or concrete building held together by brittle mortar can crack and crumble. But an Inca wall dances. The stones in a perfectly fitted Inca wall shift and settle against each other during a tremor, dissipating the seismic energy, and then simply settle back into place once the shaking stops. They are not fighting the force of nature, they are moving with it. Modern structural engineers are deeply fascinated by this concept of seismic resilience. They study these ancient walls to learn how to design buildings that can sway and flex without breaking, a principle that could save countless lives in earthquake-prone regions around the world. The most profound mystery is how this sophisticated knowledge was achieved and maintained without a written language. The techniques were an oral tradition, passed down from master to apprentice through generations, a living library of stone. When that chain of knowledge was broken, the art of this perfect fit was lost. We are left with the silent, enduring proof of their mastery, a challenge from the past that asks us to build not just with stronger materials, but with smarter designs. While the Inca mastered the art of moving with the earth, an inventor in ancient China sought a way to listen to its whispers from a distance. In the year 132, during the Han Dynasty, a brilliant scholar named Zhang Heng unveiled a device that seemed to border on magic. It was a bronze urn adorned with 8 dragon heads, each gazing outward in a cardinal direction. Below each dragon crouched a bronze frog, its mouth open in anticipation. This was the world's first seismoscope. Its purpose was not just to record a local tremor, but to detect earthquakes happening hundreds of miles away, long before the news could arrive by messenger. The principle was one of elegant simplicity. Inside the ornate vessel, a heavy inverted pendulum was carefully balanced. When the faint, initial shockwaves of a distant quake, the ones that travel fastest through the ground, reached the device, they would jolt the pendulum. This motion would trigger a clever internal lever system inside one of the dragons, causing it to release a bronze ball held in its jaws. The ball would clatter into the mouth of the waiting frog below, clearly pointing to the direction of the disaster. Historical records tell of a time when a dragon facing west dropped its ball, yet no one in the capital had felt a thing. Days later, a messenger arrived from a western province, reporting a major earthquake that had occurred at the exact moment the device had signaled. The court was astounded. This was not a simple vibration detector, it was a true early warning system. Modern seismologists who have studied replicas are filled with admiration. The device effectively filtered out local vibrations to respond to the specific types of waves that emanate from a distant epicenter. It demonstrates a sophisticated, intuitive grasp of wave propagation that would not be formally understood in the West for over 1,500 years. This ancient instrument underscores a timeless human priority, the need to understand the forces that shape our world in order to protect our communities. Zhang Heng's Seismoscope speaks to the value of foresight. It reminds us that the goal of technology is not just to react to disaster, but to anticipate it, offering precious time for response. Today, as we build complex global networks of seismic sensors, we are fulfilling the same fundamental impulse that inspired a scholar with a bronze urn to listen for the quiet rumble of a changing world. A different kind of guidance emerged from the mist-shrouded seas of the north. While Zhang Heng listened for the Earth's tremors, Viking navigators faced a more constant challenge, finding their way across trackless gray oceans beneath a sun they could not see. Norse sagas speak of a magical stone, a solarstein, that could reveal the sun's hidden position even through dense cloud cover or the brief twilight of the Arctic summer. This was no myth but a sophisticated application of optical physics. These sunstones, now believed to be crystals like calcite or cordierite, possess a unique property. They polarize light. When you look through such a crystal and rotate it, a distinct brightening and darkening pattern appears. The point of maximum brightness directly reveals the sun's position in the sky, even when it is completely obscured from the naked eye. A modern experiment proved this with stunning clarity. Researchers using a cordierite crystal were able to pinpoint the sun's location with an accuracy of within a single degree, a precision more than enough to guide a longship from Scandinavia to the shores of Newfoundland. The Vikings did not invent a tool, they mastered a property of the natural world. Their entire navigation system was a symphony of observation, using the flight paths of birds, the swell of the waves, and the color of the sea, all capped by the certainty of the sunstone. This technology faded with the arrival of the magnetic compass, a simpler, more universally accessible instrument. Yet today, engineers are looking back at these principles to create robust, non-electronic navigation aids for pilots and sailors in emergency situations. The Viking sunstone is a testament to a different kind of genius, one that did not seek to conquer nature, but to listen to its subtle whispers, a skill as vital now as it was 1,000 years ago. While Viking sailors harnessed the secrets of light, another civilization was mastering the invisible force of the wind itself. In the arid plains of ancient Persia, as early as the 7th century, engineers built windmills that transformed the desert breeze into productive power. These were not the familiar horizontal windmills of later Europe. Persian windmills stood with a vertical axis, their sails crafted from bundles of reeds or stretched cloth, catching the wind from any direction. This brilliant design was perfectly suited to its environment, a sustainable solution for grinding grain and drawing water in regions where flowing rivers were scarce. The entire structure was a lesson in elegant efficiency. The central vertical shaft drove the millstones directly, a simple and robust mechanism that minimized energy loss. This was not a technology of brute force but of harmonious integration. The Persians understood their climate and built a machine that worked with it, not against it. Modern renewable energy researchers look to these ancient designs with great interest. The vertical axis concept is being revisited for small-scale, decentralized wind power in rural and developing areas. Its omnidirectional nature means it does not need to constantly turn to face the wind, making it simpler and more durable in variable conditions. The legacy of these mills is a powerful reminder that sustainability is not a modern invention. It is a timeless principle of using available resources with intelligence and foresight. The Persians saw the wind not as an obstacle, but as a partner, a perspective that could profoundly reshape our own approach to energy today. The challenge of moving stone on a truly monumental scale finds its purest expression in the Egyptian obelisk. These single pieces of granite, some weighing over 400 tons and standing taller than a 10-story building, were quarried, shaped, and then transported hundreds of miles across the desert. The logistical problem they solved seems almost insurmountable. How do you move a weight equivalent to 200 cars without wheels, without engines, using only the materials and manpower of the ancient world? The answer was a masterpiece of coordinated labor and applied physics. Carvings and archaeological evidence reveal a system of massive wooden sledges, enormous gangs of workers pulling on ropes, and the clever use of the landscape itself. They would build canals right to the quarry site, float the obelisk onto a barge for the long river journey, and then, at its destination, face the final, most dramatic challenge, raising it perfectly upright. This involved an intricate network of ramps and sand pits, a slow, careful process of leverage and counterbalance. One of their most ingenious tricks was in managing friction. Modern experiments have confirmed what ancient art suggests. They poured water onto the sand in front of the advancing sledge. The moisture drastically reduced the friction, allowing the colossal weight to be pulled by a manageable number of people. This was not brute force, it was a deep, intuitive understanding of material science. The organizational knowledge required for such an undertaking was staggering. It demanded the coordination of thousands of workers, architects, and overseers, a level of project management that rivals the largest construction projects of our own time. This knowledge was a fragile asset. With the decline of the pharaonic civilization, the specific techniques and the sheer organizational capacity to execute them faded from memory. Modern heavy transport engineers study these ancient methods with deep respect. The principles of friction reduction and distributed load are directly applicable today when moving massive components like bridge sections or giant turbine blades across challenging terrain. The Egyptian obelisks are not just monuments to gods or pharaohs, they are monuments to human collaboration and ingenuity, a silent lesson in how to move the seemingly immovable. That same mastery of moving stone across land was applied to an even more vital task, moving water itself. The Roman aqueducts were not just bridges of water, they were the very arteries of the empire, sustaining cities with a clean, reliable flow drawn from distant mountain springs. These structures were feats of civil engineering on a breathtaking scale, with some channels stretching over 50 miles. The true genius, however, lay not in their length but in their unwavering precision. The entire system operated on gravity alone, requiring a steady, calculated downhill slope from source to city. Roman surveyors mapped these gentle gradients with astonishing accuracy, sometimes achieving a drop of just a few inches every 100 feet, ensuring the water moved with a constant, gentle pressure without eroding the channels. But this was more than just plumbing, it was an early and sophisticated form of public health engineering. Before water even reached the city, it would often pass through massive sedimentation tanks. Here, the flow would slow, allowing sand and silt to settle out, clarifying the water naturally. Sluice gates and distribution tanks then managed the supply, directing clean water to public fountains, bustling bathhouses, and even the homes of the wealthy. This network was the backbone of urban life, reducing the hardship of waterborne illness and creating a standard of public cleanliness that would not be seen again for over 1,000 years. Modern civil engineers study the enduring remains of these aqueducts with a sense of profound respect. The robust construction, using layered concrete and precisely cut stone, is a direct lesson in durability. More importantly, the holistic philosophy of sustainable water management, of sourcing from pure origins and maintaining quality throughout the journey, is a model we are urgently revisiting today. As many regions face growing water scarcity, the principles of the aqueduct offer timeless insights into efficient, long-term resource distribution. This ancient commitment to public well-being through engineering seamlessly connects to another vital field of innovation, one focused not on the health of the city, but on the health of the human body. This seamless connection between public health and personal wellness finds a remarkable expression in the smithies of ancient India. Here, the forge was not merely a workshop, it was a place of alchemy guided by the principles of Ayurveda. Foundational texts like the Arthashastra detail not just statecraft, but sophisticated metalworking techniques for creating high-quality steel and special alloys. These metals were destined for more than just weaponry. They were crafted into precision surgical tools and therapeutic instruments. The process of creating them was considered a purification ritual. Metals were treated almost like living substances, subjected to cycles of intense heating and careful cooling, a method that closely mirrors the tempering processes used in modern metallurgy to enhance strength and flexibility. This was technology imbued with intention, where the goal was to create a material that was not only strong, but also balanced and pure for its intended use, especially within the human body. Today, this ancient wisdom is capturing the attention of materials scientists. They are examining these age-old methods to develop novel alloys with superior biocompatibility, strength, and resistance to corrosion. The ultimate application lies in the next generation of biomedical implants, from joint replacements to stents, that can integrate more harmoniously with the body for longer periods. This knowledge system, however, suffered a profound disruption during the colonial period, when traditional practices and the texts that preserved them were often suppressed or disregarded. Its potential revival today is not about rejecting modern science, but about enriching it. Ayurvedic metallurgy presents a holistic philosophy where engineering was inseparable from a deep consideration for well-being. It challenges our modern compartmentalization of disciplines, asking us why we build things and for whose benefit. This lost technology offers more than just a recipe for a better alloy. It offers a blueprint for a more integrated and ethically conscious approach to creation itself, one where the line between a tool and a tonic was beautifully and intentionally blurred. High above the jungle canopy, Mayan priests tracked the slow dance of planets against a backdrop of fixed stars. Without a single lens or telescope, they mapped the cosmos with a precision that still stuns modern astronomers. Their tools were not made of glass and metal, but of stone, shadow, and an unbroken lineage of observation. At sites like Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of El Castillo is a monumental calendar rendered in limestone. On the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a series of triangular shadows down the northern staircase, creating the illusion of a massive serpent slithering down to earth. This was not a happy coincidence. It was architecture as astronomical instrument, a permanent marker of celestial time. The Maya developed multiple, interlocking calendar systems of breathtaking complexity. The long count tracked vast epochs, while the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar, and the Tzolk'in, a 260-day sacred cycle, spun together like gears in a cosmic machine. Their calculations for the solar year were more accurate than those used in Europe at the same time. They could predict eclipses and chart the complex cycles of Venus with remarkable accuracy, viewing its appearances and disappearances as portents woven into the fabric of their world. How did they achieve this? The secret lay in meticulous record-keeping. Scribes documented celestial events for generations, building a database of observations that spanned centuries. From this deep well of data, they extracted patterns and built mathematical models that could project these cycles far into the future. This was a form of analog computation, a logical system for processing information about the natural world. Today, this ancient logic is finding new life in the digital age. Software engineers and data scientists study the Mayan calendar systems to understand different approaches to cyclical time and pattern recognition. The efficiency of their algorithms, encoded in glyphs rather than code, offers inspiration for modern computational problems, from scheduling complex systems to modeling long-term astronomical phenomena. The tragic loss of this knowledge came with the Spanish conquest, when countless codices were destroyed, leaving only a handful of texts and the silent testimony of the stones. Yet, as researchers continue to decipher the remaining glyphs, we are recovering not just facts, but a complete worldview, one that saw no separation between the heavens and human life. This ancient expertise speaks to a universal drive to find order in the cosmos, a quest that connects the star-gazing priest on a pyramid to the scientist analyzing data from a space telescope, both seeking to read the story written in the sky. While Mayan astronomers charted the heavens, a different kind of comfort was being engineered deep within the earth, On the island of Crete, the grand Minoan palaces concealed a hidden warmth. Beneath the ornate floors, they built a network of channels, a system known as the hypocaust. Fires were stoked in a dedicated furnace room, and the hot air and gases they produced were not simply vented away. Instead, this captured heat was carefully guided through the empty spaces under the stone floors, and sometimes even through hollow terracotta tubes embedded within the walls themselves. The entire building became a gentle, radiant heater. This was not just about luxury, it was a profound understanding of thermodynamics and airflow, a way to transform a structure's very skeleton into a source of consistent, ambient comfort for palaces and communal baths. Centuries later, the Romans would famously adopt and refine this technology, but its brilliant origin lies with the Greeks. They grasped a fundamental principle that heat could be stored and slowly released by thermal mass, warming the space evenly and efficiently long after the original fire had died down. Today, this ancient approach is experiencing a dramatic revival. Modern HVAC engineers and sustainable architects look to these passive heating designs for crucial inspiration. The concept of using a building's own mass to regulate temperature is a cornerstone of passive solar design, a method that drastically reduces the need for fossil fuels. The Greek focus was on livability and health, on creating environments that nurtured the people within them. This holistic view of architecture, where engineering served human well-being, is a philosophy we are urgently relearning. For centuries during the Middle Ages, this knowledge of centralized comfort was largely lost, a casualty of shifting societal priorities and resources. Its rediscovery through archaeology is not just an academic exercise, it is a practical guide. The silent channels under those Minoan floors whisper a powerful reminder that our most sustainable future may be hidden in the ingenious solutions of our distant past. From the warmth of radiant floors, we move to a quieter revolution, one that captured thought itself. Deep within the Han Dynasty, Chinese artisans perfected a method to give ideas a permanent and portable home. They transformed humble mulberry bark, old rags, and hemp fibers into a smooth, strong, and remarkably lightweight surface, paper. This was not the first attempt at writing material, but it was the first that balanced durability with accessibility. The process was a delicate alchemy of water and fiber. Workers would pound the raw materials into a pulpy slurry, then carefully pour it onto a fine mesh screen, allowing the water to drain away and leaving behind a thin, even mat of interlocked fibers. This sheet was then pressed and dried, a sequence requiring precise control to ensure every piece was consistent and usable. This invention did more than just replace heavy bamboo slips or costly silk, it democratized knowledge. For the first time, records, literature, and administrative documents could be created, copied, and transported on a scale previously unimaginable, weaving a stronger connective tissue across a vast empire. Today, this ancient craft offers a vital lesson in sustainability. Modern paper engineers are looking back at these techniques to develop eco-friendly alternatives to wood pulp. By studying how ancient papermakers used fast-growing plants like hemp, they hope to reduce deforestation and create a paper industry with a much lighter environmental footprint. The artisanal methods themselves, however, were nearly lost to the efficiency of industrial machines. A renewed interest in hand papermaking now thrives among artists and conservators, who value its unique texture and archival longevity for restoring precious historical documents. This simple yet profound technology reminds us that the most world-changing innovations are often born from a practical need, using the resources close at hand to solve a fundamental human problem: the need to speak across time and distance. These intricate maps were not drawn on parchment, but woven from the very elements they described. Polynesian navigators crafted their charts from sticks bound with coconut fiber, with small shells or coral nodules marking the positions of islands. To an untrained eye, it looked like an abstract sculpture, a child's model of the sea, but to a master navigator, it was a dynamic, three-dimensional representation of the ocean's soul. These stick charts did not show straight lines between points, they mapped the invisible. The curved sticks represented the deep ocean swells, the dominant wave patterns that flow for thousands of miles undisturbed by local winds. The shells were not just destinations, they were points where these swells would bend and refract, creating interference patterns that a skilled navigator could feel through the hull of his canoe. This was a science of reading the water itself. They learned to discern the subtle difference between a wind wave and a swell that had traveled from a distant landmass, a wave that had not seen shore for a week. They memorized the star paths, watched the flight patterns of specific seabirds, and tasted the salinity of the water. All of this knowledge, passed down through generations in chants and stories, was crystallized in the structure of the stick chart. It was a mnemonic device for a vast library of environmental data. Modern maritime researchers are only beginning to grasp the sophistication of this system. They see in it a precursor to modern wave modeling and an unparalleled example of tactile data visualization. The charts were not carried on voyages, they were used for training, for impressing the complex rhythm of the Pacific into the mind of the apprentice. This entire art of wayfinding, known as Cape Itahi, or reading the ocean, was nearly erased by the arrival of Western compasses and paper maps, tools that offered a simpler but far less nuanced picture of the sea. Today, there is a growing appreciation for this lost expertise. Its principles inspire new approaches to non-electronic navigation and resilient systems thinking. It stands as a profound lesson in sustainability, a technology that required no extraction, no factories, only a deep, respectful dialogue with the natural world. The Polynesian voyager did not conquer the Pacific, he learned its language and in doing so unlocked its pathways. This same genius for designing within an environment, for creating order on a grand scale, finds its parallel on solid ground in the world's first planned cities. Those ancient pathways across the sea find their echo in the solid, unyielding ground beneath our feet. The Romans did not just build roads, they engineered the very skeleton of their empire. Stretching over 250,000 miles, this network connected distant provinces from the rainy highlands of Britain to the sun-baked markets of North Africa. A legion could march from the heart of Rome to the coast of Spain on a surface that was smooth, direct, and most importantly, reliable in any weather. The genius of these roads was not on the surface but in their layered foundation. They began by digging a deep trench, then meticulously filling it with a sequence of materials. A base layer of large stones was topped with smaller rubble, then a layer of gravel and sand mixed with clay, and finally, the crowning surface of interlocking flat stones. This was not a simple path, it was a multi-level system for stability and drainage. The road was never flat, it was cleverly cambered, built with a subtle hump in the center so that rainwater would run off into drainage ditches on either side. This prevented water from seeping into the foundation and freezing, which would have shattered the road from within during winter. The principles are so sound that modern highway engineering still employs this exact same cambered design. Today, civil engineers study the enduring remnants of these roads to understand how they have withstood 2,000 years of neglect, while our own asphalt often requires repair within a decade. The Roman focus was on longevity and minimizing long-term disruption, a philosophy of building once and building well. Their systematic approach, from initial surveying to final surfacing, reflects an organizational capacity, and a commitment to long-term planning that modern infrastructure projects desperately seek to replicate. These roads were more than just stone and gravel. They were a physical manifestation of connection, binding a vast and diverse empire together through the steady, predictable flow of people, goods, and ideas. After the empire faded, the knowledge of maintaining this intricate system faded with it, and many of the great roads were reclaimed by the land. Yet their enduring bones continue to guide us, offering timeless lessons in how to build a foundation that supports not just travel, but the growth of society itself. This mastery over the landscape to feed a population leads us to another cornerstone of civilization, the ancient art of harnessing the earth for sustenance. That mastery over the landscape to feed a population finds one of its earliest and most critical expressions in the sun-baked soil between two great rivers. The very cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, was an arid land, a place where life was entirely dependent on the unpredictable flows of the Tigris and Euphrates. To survive, let alone thrive, its people had to become masters of water itself. They engineered a vast, intricate web of canals and dikes, a man-made vascular system that breathed life into the desert. This was not just a few ditches for watering fields. It was a sophisticated network for controlling, storing, and distributing a precious resource on a massive scale. They built levees to contain seasonal floods and used sluice gates, clever wooden or stone barriers that could be raised or lowered, to precisely control the flow into secondary and tertiary canals. This allowed them to direct water evenly across vast fields of barley, dates, and wheat, turning a harsh environment into the Fertile Crescent. The result was an agricultural surplus so immense it freed people to become artisans, traders, and leaders, directly fueling the rise of the world's first cities. This ancient system is more than a historical footnote. It is a vital lesson for our present. Modern agricultural engineers are now looking back at these techniques to design water management solutions for our own drought-stricken regions. The Mesopotamian approach was inherently local and gravity-fed, requiring no external power, a model of efficiency and resilience. Why, then, was such a foundational technology lost? The decline was a slow unraveling. Canals required constant, organized maintenance to clear the relentless silt carried by the rivers. When political stability waned and centralized authority fractured, that maintenance stopped. Canals clogged, fields salinized from repeated irrigation, and the breadbasket slowly returned to dust. This forgotten knowledge highlights a profound truth. Our greatest engineering triumphs are not just about construction, but about sustained care and social organization. The ghost of that ancient network now guides modern efforts to build sustainable farming practices, reminding us that the most advanced solution is sometimes the one that works in harmony with the land, not against it. Centuries before the Industrial Age, a brilliant mind in Alexandria harnessed the power of steam. Heng, a master engineer, created a device he called the Irrigation. Picture a sealed sphere mounted between two pipes, able to spin freely. These pipes channeled steam from a boiling kettle of water below. As the steam rushed into the sphere, it was forced out through two bent nozzles, shooting outwards like jets. The reaction force from these escaping jets of steam set the entire sphere whirling, a mesmerizing dance of metal and vapor. This was not just a curiosity, it was the world's first documented steam turbine, a working demonstration of jet propulsion and the conversion of heat into motion. Yet in Heng's world, this revolutionary principle was never used to grind grain or pump water. It remained a temple wonder, a philosophical toy to demonstrate the power of air and fire, perhaps opening temple doors to create a sense of divine magic for worshippers. The potential of this technology lay dormant, a seed planted on stony ground. For nearly 2,000 years, the foundational idea of the steam engine was a forgotten footnote. Modern mechanical engineers look upon Heron's designs with a sense of awe and profound curiosity. They study the eolipile not as a primitive failure, but as a brilliant spark. It represents a complete understanding of a core physical principle, Newton's third law of motion. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, demonstrated with elegant simplicity. This ancient prototype inspires research into modern renewable energy turbines, where the efficient conversion of thermal energy into rotation remains a central challenge. The story of the eolipile is a powerful lesson in the sociology of technology. It forces us to ask why some ideas catch fire and transform the world, while others, equally brilliant, flicker and fade. The answer lies not in the intelligence of the inventor, but in the needs and resources of the society that surrounds them. Ancient Alexandria, for all its learning, did not have the pressing need for mechanical power that would drive the Industrial Revolution. It lacked the widespread coal mines to fuel such an engine and the economic pressures that would make automating manual labor a priority. Heron's engine was a solution waiting for a problem. It challenges our comfortable narrative of linear progress, revealing that breakthrough concepts can emerge, be fully understood, and then lie dormant for centuries, waiting for the right cultural and economic conditions to bring them to life. This forgotten sphere on a kettle encourages us to look back through history with fresh eyes, to reconsider the overlooked ideas that might hold the key to our own future innovations. The same ingenuity that raised obelisks from the earth also mastered the river that gave them life. Egyptian shipbuilding transformed the Nile from a simple barrier into a bustling highway of commerce and exploration. Their earliest vessels were woven from the very papyrus reeds that lined the banks, creating lightweight, buoyant boats perfect for navigating the river's shallow waters. But their ambition soon grew, leading to massive wooden ships constructed for long-distance trade voyages to the legendary land of Punt. Tomb paintings and surviving artifacts reveal a shipwright's art of stunning sophistication. They did not rely on heavy, overlapping planks nailed together. Instead, they used a technique known as shell-first construction, meticulously fitting planks edge to edge with complex mortise and tenon joints, locking them together like a three-dimensional puzzle. This created a hull that was both strong and remarkably flexible. To provide additional strength against the relentless push of the waves, they ran a massive rope truss over a series of forked posts along the deck, tensioning the entire ship like a bowstring and preventing the hull from sagging or hogging in open water. These ships were not crude rafts, they were engineered systems. Their symmetrical hulls, identical at bow and stern, allowed them to navigate narrow channels without needing to turn around, while their efficient, broad square sails captured the prevailing northerly winds to sail south against the current. Modern naval architects studying these designs are struck by their elegance. The focus on lightweight construction and tensile strength through rope is a principle directly applied in today's high-performance sailing yachts and lightweight recreational craft. The Egyptian philosophy was one of profound sustainability, using locally abundant materials and refining designs through generations of practical, on-the-water testing. This deep, specialized knowledge of currents, materials, and joinery was a cultural treasure passed down through guilds of builders. When that civilization's power waned and its economic needs changed, this intricate understanding of shipbuilding gradually faded, leaving behind only painted scenes of sleek vessels on tomb walls. Today, as we seek greener alternatives to fiberglass and steel, the ancient Egyptian model offers a powerful inspiration. a reminder that the most effective technology often arises from a deep, respectful dialogue with the local environment. Their silent ships challenge us to build not just for power but for harmony with the water itself. High in the thin air of the Andes, a message could outrun the wind itself. The Inca Empire, sprawling across some of the most punishing terrain on Earth, solved the problem of long-distance communication with a system of breathtaking human efficiency. They built a network of purpose-built relay stations or tambos, a day's run apart along the spine of their mountain realm. From these stations, the chasquis operated. These were not mere messengers but highly trained runners, each a specialist in his own section of the royal road. A runner would sprint to the next station, his arrival signaled perhaps by a conch shell blast, and pass his verbal message or a physical object to the next fresh runner waiting there. In this way, a single piece of information could travel over 200 miles in a single day, a speed that would not be surpassed in that region for centuries. This was more than a mail service. It was the empire's nervous system, carrying military orders, royal decrees, and vital intelligence with stunning reliability. But what good is speed without accuracy and memory? This is where the quipu enters the story. These intricate arrays of knotted strings, often made from cotton or camelid wool, were the Incas' unique data storage devices. A quipucamayok, or keeper of the knots, could read these cords like a book. The position of the knots, their type, and the color of the strings encoded vast amounts of information, primarily numerical data for censuses, tax records, and inventory. The ongoing debate, however, is whether the quipu could also record narrative history and complex messages, functioning as a three-dimensional written language. Modern communication engineers are fascinated by this system. They see in the chasqui network a perfect model for a decentralized, low-tech logistics chain, one that is resilient and does not rely on vulnerable central hubs. The principles are being studied to design emergency response networks for remote areas where cell towers fail, using runners or cyclists to relay critical information when digital systems go down. The quipu itself is a masterclass in data compression and tactile information design, inspiring research into alternative user interfaces and robust, non-electronic record keeping. The tragic disruption of this system following the Spanish conquest represents a devastating loss of a unique organizational intelligence. Yet, its core lesson endures that the most effective network is not always the one with the most advanced hardware, but the one with the best trained human links and the most elegant system for encoding meaning. This ancient method proves that connection, in its most vital form, is fundamentally a human achievement. From this empire of runners and knots, we now turn to an innovation that mastered not the flow of information, but the very physics of sound itself. The human voice, without a single wire or speaker, could once fill a space for thousands. In the great theater of Epidaurus, a speaker standing on the stone stage could be heard with perfect clarity by every one of the 14,000 spectators, even those in the very last row. This was not magic, it was acoustic engineering of the highest order. The Greeks achieved this through a masterful understanding of geometry and material. The steep, semicircular seating arrangement was not just for viewing. Each row of limestone seats acted as a filter, naturally absorbing the low-frequency murmur of the crowd, while perfectly reflecting the higher frequencies of the human voice up and outwards. The precise angle of the seats and the stage floor worked in concert to channel sound waves, preventing the chaotic echoes that plague so many modern arenas. Centuries later, the Romans built upon this foundation, embedding resonating bronze vessels within the walls and under the seats of their amphitheaters. These chambers were tuned to specific frequencies, acting as primitive amplifiers that enriched the voice of an orator or the notes of a musical instrument, giving them presence and power across vast distances. Modern acoustic engineers, armed with laser scans and sophisticated software, are only now fully appreciating the brilliance of these designs. They study these ancient spaces to learn how to combat problematic reverberation in our own concert halls and lecture theaters. The goal is the same now as it was then, to create an environment where a single, unamplified human expression can connect intimately with a massive audience. The detailed architectural treatises that must have guided these builders are lost to us, suggesting their knowledge was honed through generations of observation and refinement. This forgotten art of shaping sound reminds us that the ancients saw a building not just as a physical shell, but as an instrument itself. They wove the science of physics directly into the fabric of public life, creating spaces where art and community resonated as one. This deep consideration for human experience, for enhancing both communication and well-being through design, finds a parallel in the delicate tools they crafted for the most personal of arts, the art of healing. The scalpel and the suture are not inventions of the modern age. Long before the germ theory of disease was understood, ancient hands were performing intricate surgeries with tools of startling precision. Roman surgeons wielded bronze scalpels with replaceable steel blades, their fine points and comfortable grips designed for the delicate work of removing growths or setting bones. In India, the Sushruta Samhita text describes over 120 different instruments, from lancets for bloodletting to specialized forceps for extracting objects from deep wounds. These were not crude implements of last resort. They were purpose-built extensions of the healer's skill, crafted with an intuitive grasp of ergonomics that minimized hand fatigue during long procedures and maximized control. The materials themselves were a quiet stroke of genius. Bronze and copper possess a mild oligodynamic effect, meaning their surfaces naturally discourage the growth of microbes. While ancient physicians did not understand bacteriology, their choice of metal inadvertently reduced the risk of post-operative illness. This sophisticated approach extended to some of the most challenging procedures imaginable. There is strong archaeological evidence for successful trepanation, the practice of carefully drilling or scraping a small opening in the skull, likely to relieve pressure from head injuries. Even more remarkably, Indian and Greek texts describe a method for couching cataracts, using a thin, needle-like probe to displace the clouded lens and restore a degree of sight. The success of such operations depended entirely on the perfect balance and sharpness of the tool in the surgeon's hand. Today, biomedical engineers are looking back at these ancient designs with growing fascination. The quest for ever smaller and less invasive surgical techniques leads directly to these historical models. The streamlined form of a Roman surgical spoon, used for scraping tissue, inspires the profile of modern arthroscopic tools that allow surgeons to operate through tiny incisions. The study of how ancient metals naturally resisted contamination informs new coatings for hospital instruments, aiming to create self-sterilizing surfaces. This deep well of medical knowledge was meticulously recorded on papyrus and parchment, but it was not immune to the fires of war or the slow decay of libraries. The decline of centralized empires and the loss of these texts caused a profound rupture in surgical practice, setting medicine back for centuries in many parts of the world. Their modern rediscovery is more than an archaeological triumph. It is a humbling lesson in the continuity of innovation. It forces us to abandon the stereotype of ancient medicine as mere superstition and to see it instead as a field of rigorous, practical problem solving. This legacy of looking to the human body and the heavens with equal parts curiosity and skill brings our journey to its final destination, high above the earth, where ancient astronomers built devices to map the motions of the cosmos itself. Clay tablets from Babylon hold the final chapter in this story of forgotten genius. While others built monuments, the Babylonians built a library of the sky, inscribing their findings on durable clay. For over 7 centuries, their scholarly scribes maintained meticulous astronomical diaries. They tracked the precise paths of planets, logged lunar eclipses, and even noted weather conditions and river levels, creating the longest-running scientific data set in human history. This was not casual stargazing, it was a systematic, state-sponsored project in data collection. Their goal was to discern patterns, believing that celestial events influenced earthly affairs. To do this, they developed sophisticated mathematical techniques, including a form of calculus to describe the changing speed of the moon. This mathematical framework would later travel west, deeply influencing Greek and later Islamic astronomers, and forming a cornerstone of the scientific revolution. Today, this ancient practice is experiencing a remarkable revival. Modern data scientists and astronomers study these very tablets to fill in gaps in our cosmic timeline. The Babylonian centuries of observations provide a unique baseline, helping to refine models of long-term phenomena like the slow change in Earth's orbit. Their methods represent the very essence of data analytics, turning raw observation into predictive power. The loss of this continuity, as Babylonian culture faded and its libraries were scattered, was a catastrophic blow to the progress of science. It forced later civilizations to rediscover principles that had already been worked out centuries before. This final lost technology brings our journey to a poignant close. We have wandered through 25 marvels, from self-healing concrete to analog computers, from sunstones to surgical steel. Each one is a testament to a flash of brilliance, a solution carved from the limits of its time. Yet their collective story carries a sobering warning. Progress is not a straight and inevitable road. It is a fragile chain, and every link, every technique, every carefully kept record depends on the society that sustains it. When that society changes, when libraries burn or traditions fade, the chain can break. The silent stones and corroded gears we have explored are more than historical artifacts. They are questions posed to us from the past. They ask how we preserve our own hard-won knowledge for the generations to come. In our digital age, where information seems eternal but storage formats become obsolete in decades, this ancient lesson feels more urgent than ever. What are we building today that will baffle and inspire the engineers of the future? And what priceless knowledge might we, ourselves, be on the verge of forgetting? Across these 25 marvels, a powerful pattern begins to emerge from the dust. Whether it was the Roman reliance on volcanic ash or the Polynesian use of shells and sticks, ancient engineers consistently turned to the materials closest at hand. They did not seek to conquer their environment with imported resources, but to collaborate with it, creating solutions that were inherently sustainable and deeply rooted in their specific place and culture. This intimate relationship with local elements led to a philosophy of building for the ages, not just for the moment. The self-healing concrete of Rome and the earthquake-resistant walls of the Inca share a common goal: durability through intelligent design rather than through sheer mass or constant replacement. These creators worked within profound constraints, without digital models or global supply chains. Yet they achieved a sophistication that we are only now beginning to measure with our most advanced tools. Their story reveals that innovation is a universal human impulse, a spark that can ignite in any era when necessity meets a keenly observant mind. So why did these brilliant sparks so often fade into darkness? The loss was rarely a single event but a slow unraveling. The intricate chain of knowledge transmission, whether through oral traditions, guild secrets, or fragile scrolls, proved heartbreakingly fragile. A civilization's collapse, a shift in trade routes, or simply the passing of the last master craftsman could silence a technological tradition forever. The Library of Alexandria burning, the suppression of indigenous knowledge, the quiet abandonment of a canal network, these were not just historical footnotes. They were catastrophic data losses for humanity, erasing entire libraries of applied wisdom. This is why the modern study of these lost arts is far more than an academic exercise. It is a form of urgent recovery. Engineers and scientists are now looking to this ancient wisdom for answers to our most pressing modern crises. The Persian windmill offers a blueprint for decentralized, low-impact energy. The Mesopotamian irrigation canals provide lessons in water conservation for our drought-stricken regions. The Roman aqueducts model a public health infrastructure that prioritizes long-term resilience over short-term cost. By bridging the vast gap between past and present, we see that engineering is not a linear path but a continuous, spiraling journey of discovery. We are not the first to face resource scarcity or environmental challenges, and the solutions we seek for a sustainable future may well be hidden in the ingenious, time-tested principles of the distant past. This synthesis of themes prepares us for a final, reflective question, one that looks back across this entire journey to consider its deepest meaning for our own time. Our journey through these 25 marvels reveals a profound truth about the nature of progress itself. It is not a steady, upward climb, but a fragile tapestry woven with threads of brilliance that can be so easily unraveled. From the computational gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the self-mending Roman concrete, these ancient minds achieved a level of sophistication that we are only now beginning to fully measure with our most advanced tools. Their story is not one of primitive attempts, but of brilliant solutions born from a deep collaboration with their environment, using local materials and sustained observation to build for the ages. This legacy serves as a powerful cautionary tale. The disappearance of these technologies reminds us that knowledge is our most precious and perishable resource, vulnerable to the slow erosion of time, the collapse of empires, and the quiet passing of the last keeper of a secret. As we face our own global challenges today, from resource scarcity to environmental resilience, the principles embedded in these lost arts offer a timeless guide. The ancient focus on sustainability, on building with precision and a view toward longevity, and on adapting to the forces of nature rather than fighting them, provides a blueprint for a more thoughtful future. This exploration invites us to look beyond the horizon of the present, to see the past not as a distant land, but as a vast library of human ingenuity. Let these silent stones and corroded gears inspire you to consider what we might learn from the wisdom that came before, and what we must do to ensure that our own brightest innovations are never added to a future list of wonders lost to time. Thank you for joining this investigation into the echoes of ancient genius. We would love to hear which of these lost technologies captured your imagination the most in the comments below, and we invite you to subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries that connect our past to our future.